let's get rolling, because I know you guys have some questions. We have some questions. We've got some footage to show you. I'm Gary Mariano. I'll be your tour guide for the next 3 days. And let's start with our Warner Archive podcasters, the great Matt Patterson and D.W. Ferranti. Who listens to the Warner Archive podcast?
I know the 5 of you.
All right, good. We have very special guests with us today. We are excited to bring out the most beloved Jimmy Olsen of all time, Mark McClure.
How's everybody?
Great.
It's good to be somewhere.
And the original Supergirl, except no substitutes, Helen Slater.
Love you, Helen. Thank you. I love you too.
Oh, you tell it to everyone. Except me. So, let's get forward, or let's get backwards 34 years. 1984. They had 3 Superman movies with Mr. Christopher Reeve, and suddenly there was the first female-fronted superhero film coming out in England at first. And then 4 months later, we had one here that was a little shorter, Supergirl, as we're here to talk about. I think Matt might actually be able to show us a little bit of the trailer.
If you were going to be coming into the theater and you were wondering, what is Supergirl? This is the trailer you would have seen. Here we go.
Who is she? You know, I think I recognize the costume.
The question remains, just who on earth are you?
On Earth, I'm Lee. Linda Lee.
Why don't you just leave this poor kid alone and worry about the other one that flies? Because nobody gets in my way.
Wait 1 minute. I mean, you can do the whole number, leap the whole building to the single bound. You can look right through things.
Yes.
Bend steel bars?
Yes. Enjoy your prison, Supergirl. Ever and ever. Power of Shadow, destroy her!
Alexander Salkind presents the action-packed adventures of a dazzling new superhero, starring Peter O'Toole.
I must be sent to the Phantom Zone.
Faye Dunaway, Mia Farrow,
Venus. When?
Brenda Vaccaro, Mark McClure,
It's Clark Kent's cousin.
Art Bachner, and introducing Helen Slater as Supergirl. Adventure runs in the family. Supergirl, coming this summer.
And introducing Helen Slater.
That was cool.
It was the first time, huh?
That was the first time.
What was that like for you?
Well, just watching it now, I haven't seen that since 1984, I'm going to say. You know, it was a thrilling experience. I had graduated from Performing Arts High School and asked my parents if I could have the year off to try and get acting work, so that was June, and then I auditioned for Supergirl in September, I'm going to say, so very fresh, green-eyed? That's not the right word. What's the actual word?
I don't know, they look blue from here.
Blue eye. But it was an amazing experience, first time experience. First movie, I'd done like an ABC after school special and a couple of commercials.
That was an important after school special. I learned a lot.
You did? Amy and the Angel, kind of like a teenage It's a Wonderful Life type thing. But,
I remember.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? With the casting process, was it pretty tough where, I mean, it was kind of going back 5 times to prove you are the girl?
I did go back, I think 2 or 3 times, and then I had a screen test in London. I remember my mom helped me sew a costume for the original audition, and thinking I looked, you know, I walked in, and I've had this actually since then, where I have something, a costume or an object for an audition, and I'm sitting in a room and no one else has that, and I'm like sitting with the cape and the thing. But yeah, a few times, and yeah, pretty wild. Carrie's shooting me.
Did you know anything about Supergirl, the character, when you went in, or you just were like...
I hadn't read the comic book, in truth, but the sides, which are the scenes that we had to read, it was very clear. It was like a young girl struggling with her identity and her superpower, and yeah, I kind of remember that.
And, you know, there was some back and forth during the casting process between whether or not they wanted to go with an unknown or a named figure, and they went with you, and I just want to say, perfect casting.
Oh, thank you very much.
And also, the gentleman next to her, Jimmy Olsen, perfect casting, and what's really good about Supergirl is Jimmy finally has something to do, and he's really good.
Yeah.
He ate chicken.
I think I had a girlfriend in Supergirl.
You did.
I have to see it again, too. Can't wait for this, Tuesday. Or maybe I'll get a copy today. Do we get a copy today?
Might let you have a copy to go home with.
Maybe I get to see it tonight. I don't know. But I'm excited. It's good. And I do remember when I first saw Helen, I got to see Christopher Reeve when he kind of emerged as Superman, and boy, did he look good. I mean, he is, in my lifetime, or maybe in our lifetime, I don't know if anybody's going to surpass him. He is truly Superman to me and to a lot of people. And when I saw Helen, and she was a fresh face, and I was really convinced, I said, she looks like Supergirl. And that's always a good feeling when you're an actor, or a good feeling when you're involved in the project, that your leading lady is ready for the part. And I knew that there was, like with Chris, that there's a lot of responsibility when you play Supergirl. And whether I'm not even sure if she was aware of it, but you know, there is a lot of responsibility when you put that costume on. And as an actor, when you're doing it, you don't think about it. You can't think about it. You can't think about 34 years from now, are people going to remember me as this Supergirl? But you know, in the moment, you play the part as believable as you can. And you know, sure enough, here we are 34 years later, proves that Helen did the job as Supergirl.
Thank you.
Hey, Helen, Mark's talking about the responsibility behind that. Did you feel that going in?
It's funny. I mean, I definitely, when I would put the costume on, I had that sense, I don't know, I'm sure acting teachers have written about this or something, but that it sort of raised my feeling, just it wasn't my usual 1980s shoulder pads, silk dress with blue eyeliner. So I felt like I was filling it out in that way. But I think at 18 and 19 years old, it's hard to really say you have a sense of something being meaningful or important. It was meaningful and important to me because my whole life was changing. I moved to London. I trained with Alf Joint, who had trained Chris Reeve, bodybuilding and swimming and horseback riding and all this preparation. So it was a very busy time. I don't think I had much time to really reflect about what it means, what it would mean.
I'm gonna was going to ask this later, but I heard you say fencing earlier was part of
Yes.
your training.
It was. Alf Joint had this feeling that if you do a lot of different kinds of sports, that makes you sporty. So horseback riding, swimming 3 times a week, weight training, fencing, trampolining, where I practiced for the aerial ballet, doing somersaults and up in the air. And he just was an incredible. Did you ever meet him?
Yeah.
Alf
Oh, yeah.
Joint?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he was
Big man.
really.
He did Chris, and I remember Chris at lunch. I mean, he kind of came in a little skinny, maybe 200 pounds. And at lunch, he would eat 2 plates of food and then go work out. And he became bigger. And it's like with both of them, they are in that outfit. There's no Incredible Hulk padding or anything.
So what
They
did you,
filled out their outfits.
what did you do for the Jimmy outfit?
I just,
Practice both
I was lazy most of the time. I had a good time over in London, and during the Supergirl movie, I got to meet Peter Cook, who was in there, and really just an interesting guy. And in this business, you're lucky enough to meet very interesting people. You usually just kind of meet them, and you do the project, and you go your own separate way. But we kind of became friends, and he taught me so much, and it was really, and whether that was one of the main reasons why I was in Supergirl, but it was a real learning experience in my lifetime that I'm very grateful for. So I'm very grateful to the film to put me in a place where I should have, I guess maybe I was meant to be, which was cool.
So the director, Jano Schwark, is that? Yeah.
Jano Schwartz.
Oh, Schwartz.
Swark.
I do believe it's Jano Schwartz.
Swark.
There are a lot of Z's.
CWARC.
He worked with Christopher Reeve on Somewhere in Time.
Right, with Jane Seymour.
Yeah, which is a wonderful fantasy film
Yes.
that, his, and at the time when it came out, it didn't quite find its audience, but now is a beloved film. And his approach to this film, at least from the commentary that I heard on the disc, he approached this as fantasy rather than science fiction of Superman.
Interesting.
And so when you your guys' approach to this, you had to come at it from a little bit of a different way. And you were mentioning the training, and when you're doing the wire work on this, it seems like that training pays off because it's almost like you're doing wire ballet.
Yeah, you're a better flyer than Chris. That's no slag on Chris.
Chris was good too.
Definitely for that aerial ballet sequence, we shot that up in Scotland in this beautiful area by where like the Loch Lomond, I can't remember where that song comes. You take the high road. Ben, what's the name of that mountain? Ben something.
Lomond?
Nevis, is that it? Yeah.
Thank you.
But all that training definitely helped, and we didn't have CGI back then,
Right.
so a lot of the flying, both in Superman and Supergirl movies, was very old school.
It was.
If there is such a thing as old school.
And what's kind of fun about the Blu-ray is you can see the wire.
Oh, you can?
Only a few times.
No, it's great. It's actually good because that is as it was filmed. And when you go to restore like a Blu-ray, do you get rid of that? And the answer for us is no.
Really? There was an option, though, to...
Yeah, the magic of the computer.
Yes.
But you're like, no, that's the movie. And that's the charm of the movie because this is a fully physical production and it's of its time and it reflects that and it's of its budget.
Yes,
as well.
and it has that 80s now, looking back. I feel like it does feel a little bit like 1980s, just Faye Dunaway's hair and Supergirl's eye makeup and pink lipstick.
And the 80s are in again.
80s are back. But now, will it look like it was made last year now?
Well, let's see. We're going to watch a short scene here where Supergirl first comes to Earth. And who does she meet? Who are the first Earthlings she meets? Well, let's find out. Yeah, Earth isn't so great.
Just I like.
Hello.
Hello, she says.
Well, hello to you, honey bun.
Hello. I was wondering if you could tell me where I am.
What do they call this place, Eddie? Lover's Lane, isn't it?
You got it in one, Billy boy. Lover's Lane.
Oh, no. You see, what I meant was, well, those lights over there. What are they called?
Check out the view from back here, Eduardo.
Stop that.
You're, Superman's best friend, huh?
No. His cousin. I've come here to search for the Omega Hedron. It's a power source vital to Argo City. You see, that's where I live.
No kidding. Eddie and me, we're on a secret mission also. We're out looking for a good time. And you just won the brass ring, baby. Oh, she works out, huh?
Why are you doing this?
It's just the way we are.
You shouldn't have done that, baby. Oh, I see. You really want to play games, eh, sweetheart?
And one of those truckers would then become Max Headroom.
That's right. Matt Fuhrer.
1984 was a little bit different, but yet not in so many ways. I mean, here's the introduction. She's come to Earth, and they just, you know, in this film, they just go for it, and
Right.
she's immediately assaulted, which is kind of shocking.
That is kind of weird to see that scene right now today.
Right.
Is really like what's in the news. And I do, we were talking about earlier too with their A&W root beer and STP t-shirts. That's how movies are made, product placement. And but it's very interesting. That was really interesting to see that.
And interesting, they don't say anything about having a Supergirl costume with a red coat. It's like, that's totally no problem.
Superman exists in this world. How
Right.
dumb are these guys?
But was it, maybe it was October, maybe Halloween. And,
Halloween is coming.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's how Earth greets visitors from inner space.
How terrible are we? We gotta fix ourselves and be more polite to visitors.
Yeah, I think the writers were.
Hey, really, that's so interesting. It's like with all, the immigration and everything, was such a little symbolic thing that just happened there. Very nice.
And of course, that little slice of America was London.
Yeah, that was back, yeah.
Back lot of Pinewood
Back,
Studios.
Pinewood Studios.
Which is also interesting because it's like it always has struck me as very American, and then when you watch the behind the scenes commentary, you're like, oh, they just built that from scratch
No.
to destroy it
Right.
later.
The home of the
Spoiler
James
alert.
Bond films.
Yeah,
They filmed a lot of James Bond films there, and Superman, and I think Star Wars dipped in there.
yeah.
Anybody heard of Star Wars? Yeah.
He was a stormtrooper. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, that would have been good.
You never know.
You guys acted with a lot of, we didn't get to see them in that scene, but we got to see them in the trailer. You acted with a lot of titans of the industry, Peter O'Toole, and Faye Dunaway. What was that like for you two? Especially an 18-year-old
What was
stepping into that kind of reel.
That was more of a Helen.
Well, I mean, it was very intimidating with Faye Dunaway and Peter O'Toole especially, and Mia Farrow and Peter Cook, all of them. Peter O'Toole said to me, we were touring the back of the lot, and I remember him saying, like, what do you think of the word aware? I was like, what do I think of the word aware? But like it's 34 years later and it's a really interesting question. What do I think of the word aware? Anyway, I remember that, and I've told this before. I had a Juliet speech and he had me do the speech for him. Thou knowest the mask of night is on my face, else would a maiden's blush. And my hands were like just going crazy how much I loved Romeo, and he said, now I want you to try it again and put an invisible daffodil between your thumb and your forefinger and let the poetry come through. And I did it, and it was really like a phenomenal Shakespeare tutorial of how to do it.
And in a fantasy film, when you have actors of this caliber saying what would be ridiculous things, like, you know, but with that gravitas,
yes,
you believe it. And there's a whole industry of that now. You know, you put an English actor on the back of a dragon and send them off, and you're like, yeah, that's real.
That's what
I buy it. And that's how I feel about their contribution to this film.
Yeah, they're great.
That's funny. Was there a line in this movie that you felt uncomfortable saying, or just why am I
that's a
doing that?
really good question. I remember in the Phantom Zone, when we're crossing, Peter O'Toole and I are crossing through the Phantom Zone, and the winds are blowing, and I'm kind of like lolling along. And when I saw the movie, he's like big. Oh, the wind, and I felt like so just small in my acting, and it reminded me, like, lean in, remember to. For next time that I walk through the Phantom Zone.
It could happen.
Yeah, it could happen.
Could happen. That next Supergirl movie coming any day now. We didn't call this panel Supergirl the movie for nothing.
Yeah.
That was an all-star cast, though.
Well, we have another clip, and this is where, I would say this is where Jimmy shines.
No kidding.
Yeah, do you want to set this up at all, Dan, do you think, or should we just play it?
I'm just going to say, I titled this clip when we pulled it, Jimmy Olsen, photographer.
Here we go.
That's me.
It'll eventually play. Oh, I gotta hit play.
I told her to take you to every set, clean them out.
Thank you very much. Here you go, everybody. Who wants onion rings?
Yeah, here.
Thanks.
Some French fries.
French fries are mine.
Chicken for myself. Thank you.
Thanks.
Side order tomatoes?
Thanks for inviting me, Lucy.
I'm glad you could come, Jimmy.
You want a root beer? Yeah, thanks.
Oh, there's Linda. Hey, Linda! Hi! Oh, hello!
That's Clark Kent's cousin?
Who's Clark Kent?
Guess what? Why, there's this all-night party tonight at Eddie's. He's the guy with the tattoo. His folks are out of town. And the guy with the bow tie? That's Jimmy. So you want to come?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not signed out for an overnight.
Well, so what? Go back, sign in, and climb out the window. Mrs. Murphy's drunk as a skunk by now. Totally on another planet.
Oh, I don't know. It just doesn't seem right.
But that's why it'll be fun. Okay?
Okay.
Get off the road, buddy!
Look at that dingleberry.
What's a dingleberry?
Hey, you, Space Cadet! Get out of the street!
What is wrong with him?
Oh.
He's probably on drugs. And he's gonna get creamed if he's not too careful. Hi, Jimmy Olsen, photographer.
Well, I'm Kara.
Who?
Concerned. Well, that if we don't do something.
Oh, yeah, you go out there and try to help a guy like that, and he's, well, I got a gun or a knife, you know. It's not too safe. Hey, I'm starving. Let's eat.
Come on, Linda.
Power of shadow. Bring him to me.
tattoo before, Linda?
Look!
What's that?
Listen, there's only others look like the same as driving.
Oh my God! It's a runaway! Somebody's gotta do something!
Hey, what you... Lucy, be careful! What's going on? Lucy!
Excuse me, I'm in a rush.
I know the feeling.
You'll have to get the Blu-ray to see how it is.
Don't mess with the omegahedron.
Now, I just want to point out the way you know it's an 80s movie is because, you know, Eddie, the guy with the tattoo.
Dan, what is happening in this film?
In brief, and this is a hard movie to describe in brief, Zaltar saved Krypton's Argo City with the use of the omegahedron, which is sort of a magical science device. And he was borrowing it to make a sculpture, and it accidentally got lost, and Kara feels responsible. Kara, by the way, is Kal-El's cousin, and who's Clark Kent. And so she journeys to retrieve the omegahedron, which has fallen from inner space into Earth, where it fell into the laps of a witch named Selena, played by Faye Dunaway, who is now using the omegahedron to take over magic and maybe conquer the world. So Kara has to journey to Earth to get the omegahedron back. Meanwhile, Zaltar is banished to the Phantom Zone.
I know this is going to surprise you, but we call Dan a geek.
And I was sitting there going, well, that's not quite right. But it's a bit of a difficult plot to digest.
Yeah, it's much more like a Silver Age comic book than perhaps Donner's Superman. It's very sort of science fantasy. I know that the director wanted there to be a lot of grace and more feminine sides, which is why it's sort of more fantastical. But what's interesting is that elements of this movie made it into the plot of this season of the TV show, so it had influence.
And
that's not the only thing that's made it into the TV show, is it? Is that fun for you to revisit?
I have so much fun, and Melissa Benoist is incredible in the show, as is Kyler Lee. They are the nicest young women on the planet, and Greg Berlanti, their whole team has been so generous and sweet with me. It's fun. It's a lot of fun to have. I just like how they stitch it all together.
Were you surprised by that? That they pulled you in like that?
I mean, it just was so fun to be asked to do it. So I think sometimes it is, I think now we're sort of getting used to that they take people that have been in some kind of, whether on Smallville or Lois and Clark or the original Superman movies, and they, you know, they pluck them and kind of fold them into the new story. It's fun for the fans. I think, like, we really...
You guys like it, don't you?
And they got a Jimmy Olsen in there.
Yeah, we'll work on that one.
Jimmy Olsen lives. I like that.
I heard a rumor they were going to cast you as James Olsen's father.
That'd be good. Yeah, and there's a whole backstory to that. Which is good. It's all very Very
Jimmy the movie?
reverent. Yeah.
I would
That'd be
go.
nice. It's always good to see that Jimmy is alive and living.
So at the time when this movie came out, it didn't find its audience right away.
No.
Because it kind of come off of the heels of Superman 3, which, while a bigger film, was nowhere near as big as Superman 2. And then Jimmy got to be in Superman 4
Who won the Academy? What film got the Academy Award that year?
in '84.
In '84.
I never memorized those.
Well, I just want to try to figure out why he didn't do better. I mean, was it, I don't know, Dustin Hoffman probably was in there.
Something with the score by Vangelis.
There were quite a few classic films from
Meryl
1984.
Amadeus.
Thank you. Crowdsource.
That took a lot of the wind from the sail, Amadeus crowd.
But honestly, what is really too bad is that happened because in a perfect world and perhaps on an alternate universe, there is a movie that has Mark McClure and Helen Slater and Christopher Reeve all together because they're all perfectly cast in these parts.
Thank
Yes,
you.
that's nice.
And we like to appreciate the movies for what they have, and this movie has a lot of charm, and that's what makes it a lot of fun and makes it worth revisiting. And when you go back to a film like this and try to put it together for a Blu-ray, you're now taking these elements from the 80s, that there was a completely different corporate ownership at the time, the way that it kind of wound its way to Warner Brothers. It took about 20 years, and we didn't release the initial DVD.
It was TriStar originally, right? And then
It was
In
a,
the States, yeah, Columbia TriStar distributed, and in terms of its home entertainment release, it had a release from a number of different people before Warner Brothers, well, not a number two, before Warner Brothers put it out. And then in putting this out, we had to figure out, well, which cut do we spend the most resources on, and what else can we get? And
because there was a longer international cut and a much shorter cut was released in the United States. By how many minutes, Dan? There was like 105 minutes for the U.S. and like 120 minutes.
oh my goodness.
yeah, it's a big difference, and the what is called the international cut on this, as opposed to the longer director's cut, is, in our opinion, like that is the right length. That is the best. That's the one that has the commentary from the director, so it also fits that. It's also, honestly, we couldn't find film elements for the longer cut, so that's why the longer cut is in standard definition on it, because that's the best quality source.
There
we
are
have.
both discs are in the set, so you can see both versions.
You see both versions, and we have director's commentary and vintage making of. They're all there.
There's two films on
Yeah.
2 discs, 2 films.
two different cuts.
One Blu-ray, one DVD.
Wow, that's cool.
It's a 2-disc set.
And I gotta say, looking at it, it definitely looks like
It's kind of incredible what you
It
can
is.
do. And when you listen to the making of now, and you hear like the scene where you come down, a cutout of you comes down into
Yeah,
the
that's
pipe,
really cool.
and you're running out. It's so clear on this, and then when you're like, oh yeah, that is kind of a cutout.
Like the
Which
scene
is
where
great.
you first come out of the water,
Yeah.
you watch it the first time, you're like, oh, that's cool, and then there's the flying ballet, which is beautiful. But then you listen to the commentary and you're told it's a cutout, and then you watch it on Blu-ray, and you're like, oh yeah, it is a cutout.
There's the cable, like a little black cable. But you may or may not have noticed it in the movie theater, but you certainly wouldn't have noticed it on TV at home. But now we have magical machines from the future.
And are we doing this to a lot of films? Or to only special films?
Special film.
Yeah, I wish it was more. I mean, there's only, it takes a lot more resources to make a Blu-ray than a DVD because it has 4 times the resolution.
Wow.
So you have to find the best elements that are available to do the scanning. But the software and the hardware have become less and less expensive over the years, and so the machine cranks up, and now with streaming, there's a bigger demand for higher quality. So it's just finding the
And we
money.
couldn't get it released today?
In the movie
They
theater?
gotta wait till Tuesday, or just to buy.
You gotta wait till,
Yeah.
you don't have.
They gotta wait till Tuesday, they're gonna tease you guys till
Tell you what,
Tuesday.
Mark, here's what we're gonna do.
What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have some people line up and ask, anybody wanna ask a question?
Oh,
Okay. while you're lighting up, I'm going to ask a question, but I'm going to say that there's going to be 5 of these that will be the best 5 questions. So don't ask for a kiss. Maybe Mark will give you a kiss. Okay. Don't ask for anything out of the ordinary. Ask a real question.
Real question.
5 best questions are going to take home one of these bigs.
I'm going to ask myself.
Did you do this after?
I can't wait till we...
Yeah, why did
I want to know,
advantage?
because I heard you guys earlier.
I'll answer the question for you.
We're going to beat him later.
I know. This is like,
This is how you...
He's never-
1,000 people sitting out there.
you've done like 25 panels and you've never
He has
done
to prove that he was on the panel. So we're going to show this video.
Let's let the contest begin.
Hey, what you guys are really enjoying meet and greet with the fans these days.
You guys, I gotta say, you guys, I've come to these things over the years, and I really love you guys for your honesty, your passion, and, you know, a lot of you have the story that Helen was saying today where people will mention where they were when they first saw the films. And that, you know, when you do a film that actually affects people's lives and makes them feel good, you know, better about themselves, or just remember the moment when they first saw it, that's powerful. And I appreciate you guys telling us your stories. And it's, like I say, it's very cool, very cool. Thank you.
Well, that's true. I mean, I tell my family that because I've done a few other Comic-Cons across the states and in England, and one of the most moving things is when I hear people's stories, just like these incredible stories, not only what Mark's referring to, which is when the movie came out, what was going on in their family, or different things like that, but just people sharing, I mean, stories just about their lives that I never would have heard before, and honestly, it's, I feel very moved and glad to hear it. So, thank you guys for all of that.
All right, so state your name first, then ask.
My name is Crystal, and first of all, it's really good to see you, Helen. I had such a crush on you when I was growing up. Supergirl, Legend of Billie Jean. He's a strong enough character, so I felt very connected with you, and good to see you. I just want to know, were there any talks of a sequel to the movie back then?
There was, but I think because it didn't do well financially, they just scrapped the idea of the second.
Hi, to commemorate the celebration of this Blu-ray, I brought along an original production storyboard. So I guess I'm not allowed to do much more than that. So I just wanted to say thanks for releasing the Blu-ray.
Cool. You'll like it.
And you have a dog. I would like to.
Yeah. It's custom made.
See, when people want what they want.
Say your name.
Hi, my name is Daniel from Norwalk. I have the Anchor Bay release on DVD. It was an awesome release, and it had the 2 different cuts of the movie. It had the extended scenes too, and the lost scenes. I guess the extended scenes will be the extra DVD. I guess. Yeah, I was wondering what was your favorite scenes from those lost scenes to the 2 actors.
I don't actually know what the lost scenes are. I'm so sorry. I haven't seen, and I don't remember what was taken out. So when I get a chance to look at the international version, I guess, right, or the one.
Yeah, there's.
The standard def one.
That's the longer one. Yeah.
Those will. I honestly do not remember. Do you remember?
You can call into our podcast and tell us, and then we'll tell them.
There we go.
Extra fun scenes at school and stuff. That's what they were.
I personally loved the school scenes, and I was like, oh, they're coming out with a new Supergirl show. I can't wait for them to go to school. It was like, no, but it was like Devil Wears Prada, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's true.
We shot, there was
kept
a
saying
Jimmy Olsen love scene that didn't make it.
The British
Oh,
Board of
I'm telling you, it
Censors.
was powerful. There was whipped cream, the whole thing. And I think the editors and the producers realized it was too much at the time. I get it.
Faye Dunaway said you were just too much. Didn't want that shot. So.
But maybe that's in the new DVD, ready on Tuesday.
I can't guarantee it.
Yeah. No, you can't. Keep a secret. Keep a secret.
So my question is for Mark.
What's your name?
My name's Rodrika. Hi.
Rodrika.
How harshly do you judge all the Jimmy Olsens that have come after you?
I don't. I really do. I love hearing the name James Bartholomew Olsen, and I'm happy. I'm always happy for the character to continue on. And right now, I'm the senior Jimmy Olsen. Jack Larson, who was a friend of mine who played him in the 50s, was a great guy, told really great stories. I miss Jack, but Jimmy Olsen is just really a great guy, and I've been able to hang out with him for 40 years, and I'm happy for anybody that gets a chance to play him in any way, because he is a good guy.
Hi, I'm Ken. Mark, Sarah Douglas, let me say hi to you.
Oh, nice, nice.
And Helen, thank you for being nice to your bartenders. We love you.
What's that about?
Walt Disney Hall, I gave this champagne.
Oh my gosh, I remember you. Nice to see you.
So my question is, I don't know where I heard this, I don't know if I read it in the Starlog magazine or just a rumor, but the ballet flying scene, when you flew, did they dunk you in or you just sailed right over and made it on the first attempt?
Well, with the ballet, that was not over water. I mean, there's some of that. Yes, that's true. There's that one scene where I'm flying over, dip over. There was one section where they didn't handle it right. They didn't quite get the and I did end up in the water. So that is true. That's true. A little bit of water.
But fine Scottish water.
That's exactly.
Hi, Andy, and thank you for Legend of Billie Jean too, as she mentioned. That was also a big,
a
big girls empowerment movie, and for young gay boys too.
Oh, way to go! Fair is
the movie
fair.
Invincible. So my question is, thank you to the Warner Archives for releasing this. Will you have the Popeyes chicken commercials and the screen test on there? And then, Helen, can you talk about the screen test costume and the headband and all that?
No, those aren't on there, unfortunately.
But you get a free biscuit with every DVD.
Gary's baking them right now. He's got a truck.
I found out today, and I don't know if this is apocryphal, but someone during when we were doing the press said that the writers or the producers, the Salkins, I guess, asked DC to come up with a comic book Supergirl with the headband and with the little shield here, and they did that, and then ultimately scrapped it once, I guess, after the screen test. I remember doing a screen test with the headband with more wavy hair. Yeah, and
it's so 80s.
That was super 80s. That's like Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
80s.
Beta only.
Right, yeah, thanks.
Hey guys, how are you?
Good.
I'm from Australia, so hello.
Hello.
My question is, nothing will ever top the original movie, but have you seen the latest reincarnation of Supergirl with Melissa and Mechad? And what were your thoughts on it, if you've seen it?
Well, I've seen it and I'm in the series because I played them all.
No Blu-ray for you.
But he should get a DVD. He should
Maybe they don't have it in Australia.
I'm sending him the Supergirl series.
Right?
Probably from the Outback.
My feeling is that Melissa could have chemistry with just about anybody. She's so beautiful and charismatic, and I love how they are together with Mechad. I always want to say like the Hebrew Mechad. They have my blessing and my love, and she's an incredible actress. I can't say enough great things about her, and human being. I just saw her, my husband and I were just in New York and saw her on Broadway playing Carole King in Beautiful, and she was unbelievable, unbelievable, singing, her acting. She was just this radiant, charismatic moonbeam on the stage. So she's really going to go, I think there's nothing she can't do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Dan from here in San Diego. Helen, One of the interesting things about Supergirl back then was that it was really one of the first times that we had a female superhero movie come out. Despite nowadays we have with the influx of like Wonder Woman and the forthcoming Black Widow and Captain Marvel films coming out, do you recall when you originally read the script for Supergirl that there may have been an attempt to sort of inject sort of a feminist or a feminism approach to the superhero genre?
That's interesting. I mean, feminism has always been in the culture, I feel like, especially since, you know, Betty Friedan and those books from, what's the other one I'm thinking of? Anyway, but I don't think the movie was intentionally feminist. I think they were just trying to tell a story about a girl, kind of like a Ugly Duckling type story, more than a feminist story, but I do think with The Legend of Billie Jean, that was actually a female empowerment story. So, I don't know, with Supergirl it seemed more about what is it if you're an alien and how are you skillful in a place that's not familiar to you? I think that's more what they were interested in, with a lot of strange Harry Potter magic, weird. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, my name is Albert from San Diego, and I met you, Hal, in LA, I think it was last year.
Oh, okay.
And I want to say again, from the bottom of my heart, you brought one of my #1 favorite character. You made me a big fan of Supergirl.
Oh,
and it's because of you that I'm still a fan today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Always. My question is, do you remember any deletes, any cut scenes that you did, or any bloopers that you might want to share with us?
I wish I could remember, like we were just saying, there's this extended version, and if only I had seen it before coming to the panel, I could pull out what the...
There are no bloopers on it.
There were no bloopers in the movie. You were perfect.
Done in one take. I wish I could remember, but honestly, I don't. I wish I had a better answer for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, my name is Dominique Beltran.
Hi.
And I have a question for you, all of it. In today's world, what and how women's changed before Supergirl changed the face of comic book industry?
Say the first part? What? I'm sorry.
What and how women's changed before Supergirl changed the face of comic book industry? Like, how does it change when you first introduced Supergirl to the comic books?
I mean, that's more people who know the entire history of comic books could probably speak more directly to that question. But in terms of the film, I think it holds this place of being the first movie with a Supergirl, with a woman or a young girl as the star of the film, and I think that probably is interesting to some people, or as if they were marking it in film history.
There's still a very small number, and that is something that can be greatly improved. I mean, different points of view help any genre, and the superhero genre can use that just as much as anything.
Yeah, definitely.
We do have our Wonder Woman now. She's great.
She's great.
She represents.
Hi, my name's Jonathan. I definitely remember where I was when I first saw the movie, and I think because it was the 80s, I spent like the next 34 years trying to get every item the Supergirl was on. So I'm kind of wondering what it was like seeing your face on a coloring book and a paper doll, a Japanese model, all these different, was it kind of strange being marketed?
Definitely. I think looking back on it, I felt so shy around that part of being an actress or a movie star. I don't think I was prepared for that part of it, even though it didn't do as well as they thought. It still had done enough well that I did feel exposed. And so I don't know how you prepare for that. Yeah.
Also, have you read any Supergirl comics since then? Because I know you didn't before.
I have. I can't recall. When I was working on that 50th anniversary issue for DC, I was reading up on but I can't recall the name of the names of what I was given at that time. So, thanks.
What was your name?
Jonathan.
I'm just looking for more streaky movies personally. I want Legion of the Super Pets.
Right? Super Pets movie, you guys with us?
Yeah.
Right? It's a no-brainer.
Hi, my name is Victor. First I want to say,
growing up, the Christopher Reeve Superman movies were sort of my favorite movies. And I think one of the things that was really interesting about Supergirl, one of the reasons I watched as a kid, was kind of like one of these first shared universe movies, like how we have the Marvel Universe movies.
Yeah.
And I remember like, oh my God, like Jimmy Olsen is in this movie, and you're looking at a picture of, you know, Christopher Reeve as Superman, you know, you always hope, oh, maybe he'll show up in the next one.
Yeah.
So, but I know a lot of that is just because of like the Salkins owning that property at the time. So, and you know, they're interesting characters from what we know of them. So my question is basically, do you have any interesting recollections about the Salkins, either one of you, Mark or Helen?
That's interesting.
Well, you know, they fired the one person that is the reason why I'm sitting here, Richard Donner, for reasons still kind of unknown. Yeah, it's, you know, I was pretty young at the time. Margot Kidder, God bless you, Margot Kidder. She was the only voice, really. I mean, Chris was still kind of early on where he couldn't really fight or stand up for, but Margot did. And as you saw in Superman 3, at the beginning of the movie, she was given a bikini and was sent somewhere. And that's, I guess, what happens in the business, where if you speak up, they'll just kind of write you out or whatever they do. But the Salkinds were an interesting pair. It could have been good. Everybody signed, when we did Superman, everybody signed for 7 films, and Dick Donner was signed for 7 films. Everybody was.
Wow.
So it's kind of interesting, you know, how things had changed, you know, with Chris's story. And everything is meant to be, and we are doing what we are doing. But I think it all turned out pretty good because we are sitting here, and life is good, and hard lessons are good lessons. As long as we keep learning, we'll be good. But the Salkinds, hey, God bless them for producing Superman to begin with. That's a good thing.
Last question.
Hi, everyone. It is such an honor to be here today.
You win.
My sister and I used to watch Supergirl. I was 10 years old. I watched it over and over again. I bought the book. You play the part with such a beautiful purity that you don't see very often these days. It's something that I'm proud to show my daughter here.
Oh, thank
I
you.
own the DVD on Anchor Bay. Would love to own the new DVD. Was wondering what kind of message would you like to
Blu-ray.
give young Supergirls these days?
Oh, what a great question. I guess, you know, I guess it's interesting about making ethical choices, I think, like sort of kindness at the center, but like being ethical or moral. I think there's nothing wrong with that, kind of weighing things without just the immediate satisfaction, which is very hard to do at a young age, and it shouldn't feel repressive, but that idea of like, how will this be received in the world, or I think that's not a bad thing.
And when you're powerful, you know, that's a powerful choice, because you don't have to be kind.
Right. That's true. So it's almost like a bigger responsibility. Yeah.
It's like the heart of the Superman movies, really.
I think that's true. That's true.
All right.
Thank you.
I want to thank everybody for coming. We're going to wrap it up now. When we're done, I need Rodrika, Ken, Dan from San Diego, the sisters here, and Jonathan to come on over here, and I'll give you a gift in a minute. But first, please.